All right, what's going on, boys? So this is going to be a short week this week. It's a 4-day week. Today is Labor Day. So we got to be very selective with what we trade because I think a lot of people kind of get caught off sides. And if there isn't really any direction within the market or volatility, and then you're kind of bag holding that position, that's whenever a 4-day week could ruin other weeks that weren't short weeks. And that just sounds really dumb, right? You don't want to be in that position. So we got to dial in on a few charts and a few charts only, make those few charts count and call it a week. That's just kind of how trading has been. There really hasn't been, 10 trades to 10 charts to be focusing leading into a new week. I had about 7 total that I was looking for, but I think I'm going to limit that down, especially after Tuesday, being tomorrow. So we do have PMI, I believe, tomorrow as well. It's either tomorrow or Wednesday. I think PMI numbers are typically Tuesdays. Let me take a look at that real quick. We'll go over the economic calendar, and then I don't really care about the economic calendar. Kind of just don't want to have anything in the way. 9:45 a.m. tomorrow, we have PMI numbers. So we have construction spending at 10 a.m., ISM manufacturing at 10 a.m. So we have 10 a.m. data sets. Typically, that what that does is provide the direction for the given day, right? So if we somehow don't really gap up or gap down, and then we get a nasty accumulation or distribution candle, meaning like just a fat, like intraday type of a signal candle, then that's whenever you could conclude that the day is either cooked or the day is either a nice long opportunity for given names. I don't know why I keep getting these. I need someone to help me out with that. Um, all of a sudden, man, TradingView just been getting all of these ads. So let's dive into some of these charts that I am kind of liking. Okay, so if tech actually sells early in the week off of data, anything, off of any ugly looking, off of anything that's like real ugly looking right off of the new week, I'm going to be looking at Valero and MPC, which is another energy name. These are two energy names. If you go over to the XLE sector as a whole, what it kind of is just creeping up for several weeks on end, kind of just sitting here within like I think where weekly higher lows would be building out, where structure development would be favoring buy side, right? Because we filled most of this trend, right? We put in a swing low off of it, big time volume anomaly, right? This is the biggest volume candle that we've seen ever since what were to be, I think, energy earnings reports all the way over here at the beginning of May, if I do remember right. You go over to the beginning of May. This is the beginning of May, right? So yeah, we actually did have some earnings reports over there. So that that's a very notable candle. You go over to XLE, and the volume is starting to dry up ever since that, right? Where we're kind of getting these pullbacks into what the heavier volume sell was, except whenever you're getting the pullbacks and then they keep selling, but they're failing to push this down for like what would be a confirmed lower high, then that's whenever the whole entire range can kind of be wiped dry, and then we can kind of get a reset and then a push higher back up into what would be further up resistance up towards like 94 bucks. If that were to happen, I would love to see like tech starting to sell, the auction starting to kind of complete off of who wins this bear gap. So that's why I'd be looking at, you go over to the sectors list if you have one, you go take a look at like energy, and then you see how the relatively strong names within the energy sector are, is this, um, it's MPC and Velo, right? These got really nice rips. Um, so yeah, I don't know. We'll definitely see what has to come with those leading into the new week. The ideal scenario, the ideal setup here, guys, would be okay, we have a massive weekly level right here, right? And we're actually beneath that, but we're getting accumulation beneath it, and and that's whenever you have to go into the weekly chart and start concluding to yourself like, okay, what does this really look like? It looks like they're trying to put in new lows that are failing week by week by week on all of these weekly lows, and they're kind of just finding the accumulation off of them. Um, we actually did get what would be like a little breakout failure here off of the earnings report. right? We did catch the earnings report move, did catch the flush for 2,500%, and then that move actually stalled all the way back up here. And then ever since then, guys, we really haven't seen any sort of crazy volume entering into Velo. Um, the biggest and most notable volume that I could really find here would be this breakdown candle that led to a little bear flag looking type of thing into a retest into a failure. Now we're in what we would call like a little like a little like bear flag breakdown failure, I guess you could say. That was actually accumulated heavily, and a really nice result was shown leading into that Friday, right? So if we could get above 147, I'm probably going to be taking some time on a trade here, probably to target back up into the mid to low 150s. And if we can get that, that's going to be a really, really, really nice one. The name is a little spready. The direction isn't always going to be there. However, whenever you're seeing names like this that are kind of disconnected from the overall general sector, that's definitely something very notable given the fact that this weekly chart is looking really, really, really nicely. Um, if you're a moving average guy, I mean, I guess, it could be against your rules beneath the moving averages, but yet again, that's why I don't trade moving averages. Don't trade based off of them. They're not really involved with my system. It's just pure volume, pure levels, pure price, everything like that, right? Effort versus result, and just kind of analyzing the auction, right? Because moving average just doesn't tell you anything about the auction and the battle of supply, demand, stuff like that, right? So if you go over into MPC, I guess you have a reclaim with an undercut beneath the weekly moving averages, the EMAs, the 9 and 21, and then we got a really nice recovery and a nice strong day leading into the end of the week last week, being Friday. This is actually a cleaner volume pattern, I should say. We really never, relative to the rest of the range, this is the nicest looking candle, right? This was a bottoming candle, like an inverted hammer that led to absolutely no progress, decent volume behind it, right? I don't know if this was an OPEX day, but relative, like I said, to the rest of the range, this is definitely the nicest candle, right? This is has the most volume behind it, uh, most the nicest, strongest, most fluid type of candle spread, if that makes sense, right? You always want to look for, okay, a lot of volume, but what's within that volume, right? I mean, there's a lot of volume over here. It's a disgustingly gross candle, right? There's also a lot of volume in a candle that looks something like this over here, but like, what is that? That's probably OPEX. Kind of want to disclude a lot of OPEX. You look at massive volume like over here, it's like it's a little bit more neutral based, right? Versus something where you're getting a nice clean constructive higher low after this undercut failure, after this what you would call accumulation, like preliminary accumulation range from over here into like a shakeout or a spring, basically just into a big retest of where a lot of money was built previously. And then you get a nice strong V-shaped recovery. And then what happens is we pull back, and then you're finding that bid essentially moving his bid up from where they were previously playing, which is over here on this earnings day, stuff like that, right? So take swing low, swing high. It's kind of just bouncing right off of where the 618 would be at. Really, really, really nice close near the highs. I don't necessarily know where the execution is going to be at this with this one yet. I would like it to be on an inside bar. So if we get some sort of candle that looks like, let me take out my marker. If we got a candle that somehow like looked like this, an inside bar towards the upper range of the trading day, that's whenever you could take a simple break and base right over the level, right? So if we were to get an inside bar leading into Tuesday, I'd be like, hell yeah, like real low volume, real tight range. I would be like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a really nice trade for us to take the break, the base right off of the inside bar high, the outside bar high, I should say. The candle swallowing the trading day of Tuesday, and then that's whenever we would look for like 182. Maybe even further up into, like I said, there's always going to be a draw if the auction isn't strong enough, if there's not a strong enough amount of supply at a given spot. It's going to take out the highs where it's not strong enough, and it's going to move to where the the next amount of supply that's sustainable for this to even try to find a move lower is going to be like at the high volume candles, right? At the ranges where there was a lot of supply kind of unloaded at, right? That being a candle like this. So if you think about it from a multi-day swing perspective, or even just like an intraday move, I mean, you got a tight little stop beneath like what would be the breakout area, right? And then if you have like an orb established right off of that to be able to put the stop off of it as well, that's even better. And then you're targeting into like the low to mid 180s, that is that's a 3.6R. That's a 3 point that's a 4R, right? Try to target the upper ranges of that, however, you're looking at like a 5R, right? So that's a really, really nice trade. Same general thing with Valero. Don't really want to get too much into these two charts because they're very self-explanatory. I think this is more or less just a patience game rather than just like front running the shit out of these two charts. So yeah, with that being said, MPC and Velo are my two energy names that I'm going to have on watch this week. Semiconductors. Obviously, a lot of the semiconductors don't look that great. You go over into the names like Nvidia. We did get like the breakdown right off of the earnings. However, does it necessarily matter? No, it doesn't, because whenever you're looking at the weekly chart, guys, what's happening here? Is this a failed distribution? Are they going to draw this thing back up into a new all-time high for potentially a UTAD, which would be a schematic that looks something similar to, okay, we get a weekly higher low, we push higher, and then we push and get maybe like some breakaway gaps above the previous all-time high. You get this sentiment that's driving real bullish for the time being, right? And then that's whenever everyone gets absolutely bagged, pushes back in, and then it pushes back down into like gaps that are left behind, right? So I don't know if this is all a range of failed distribution. Obviously, the volume patterns on like the weekly chart and the daily chart are relatively. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't want to lie about it. Bears are in control of the chart. Um, so I don't know if that's going to continue. However, if it doesn't continue, if semis remain relatively strong, the best risk to reward within the semiconductor, uh, the best risk to reward within the semiconductor group, in my opinion, is TSM. Right, so you're getting a lot. First of all, just the consolidation itself is really, really nice. Really like the consolidation. It's also kind of basing above bear gaps that are kind of being controlled, claimed, and then held. If that hold kind of continues with like the EMAs really coiling up into where you would now be looking for the expansion, this could be a really tight risk with a very large reward where a push up into the bear gap above us makes a lot of sense if semiconductors continue to show that strength. Um, like I said, just a quick, you know, distribution, really disgusting volume coming off the upper ranges of the chart, right? Not the most bullish or bearish earnings candle. We actually did get a disgusting, like, looks to be news gap down off of this new high that was created. So, in terms of volume patterns, I would say sellers are in control of the range, right? But are they playing up here? Right? I mean, sellers that sell and unload from here down into here, neutral based type of candle on earnings, and then it starts trickling down on low volume, followed by really nice increasing volume after that whole gap down. Are the sellers kind of trying to play a little bit more passive here. Are these sellers going to play into the upper ranges of the bear gap? And if they do, the risk reward on this is so good, right? I mean, I take a simple break of the range or a sweep of all of these supports into a hold on heavy volume. It's like, dude, an entry down here with a stop beneath the level, that could be disgusting risk to reward, right? You have about $4 or $5 of a stop. You have a target all the way up into mid range of like the mid range of like the bear gap up here. That's a 4.5 R, right? You target up towards the tops of it, which is just mid 185. I mean, that's only a $14 move, and this name's very, very, very volatile whenever it wants to move, right? I mean, you're looking at these trading ranges where, or even just these gaps where it's like, look at how this thing moves whenever it wants to move. $10 move in 2 days, right? Um, like say for example, this gaps down and then prints a candle that looks something like this with nice volume on it, like that could start making the trade really, really, really nice. Something like, a nice little gap up like this, man. Oh, dude, trade's already completed, right? I feel like news could be hitting just because of like what's going on with like this like Taiwan and shit, you know. It's a little bit scary, but at the same time, you can't really be worried about any of that shit. So, I mean, it could also be a positive thing. I don't know. ON, this is another semiconductor, and it's, in my opinion, relatively strong. I mean, we did get the gap up on the earnings. It was a double beat, I believe. Don't really care about the numbers, but when you're just looking at the gap up with that kind of volume, it's very notable, right? Heaviest volume that we've seen on this name since the Q4 of 2023, Q4 report of 2023. And as you guys can see, whenever a range has a said resistance, and that resistance is being kind of created off of what would be like this massive bear gap, right? So this is just a big bear gap. And what they did was they filled it and then they started just putting lower high by lower high by lower high off of it. However, whenever you find, a shakeout at the low and then it starts ripping on nice volume, nice reports, positive reactions, putting in higher lows, and then pushing its way higher and getting multi-day bull flag looking bases within a resistance. It's the bread and butter uh, path of least resistance type of setup that we have here. Um, you go into like smaller time frames. All I really have to be looking for here would be a 78, 79, 80 break. And then I think this could push up into that higher range at like 82, 83. I got to look at the chain. I got to look at the premiums. I don't think I've ever traded this name, but it is in the semiconductor. I feel like it could just work as a swing trade on a break of the level, but I'm not a big breakout. Fills on a breakout aren't very good. I just like the high, tight inside bar. That's potentially soaking this wick, right? Because if you go into the 15, I mean, this was a disgusting close for this name right over here, right? But then you gap up into that range and you trade throughout the whole entire price action of this range, and it just didn't look like anything was really like bo bothering this thing, right? I mean, it kind of just consolidated with a slight sell and then a slight recovery into the close after you get the potential range break happening, right? So, um, this is definitely not a bad trade. I don't know necessarily how I'm going to execute this. I kind of just want to get a feel for the tape and all of the semiconductors as a whole. Um, I don't know the laggers, if the leaders are lying or if the laggers are lying, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with the NVIDIA print, the NVIDIA earnings print. We don't really know any of that yet, right? We have an inside bar. Volume is becoming elevated into the report and after the report and staying relatively elevated, decent volume with an inside bar, right? So we don't know what's going to happen. We don't. Um, if I had to lean a particular way, I would say bullish. Yet again, though, we just got a range break with a close near the lows on the inside on the earnings report, and then an inside bar after. We're looking for the change of character off of where previous lower highs have been claimed. Now they're being retested. Now we're trying to look for what we could find to be like some sort of weekly higher low into the break higher, right? And then we could reevaluate what's going to happen at a UTAD potential, and we could ride the wave higher all the way up into price discovery, right? So we don't know yet, but this is where structure plays a big role into a lot of these charts. If it's sold off, extremely easy to start off the week just to fill some gaps beneath us. That's whenever you could also start looking for, okay, is this going to actually just be some sort of, weekly higher low, and then it just continues its way higher. The weekly higher low doesn't have to be off of any specific spot. It's more or less just reacting to when it looks like it's on the way. Um, so D-Dog, I don't, is it this cyber? I think this is cybersecurity, but let me look. It's either cloud or like cybersecurity. Cyber? Okay, I really don't care what companies do. I kind of just want to know like the basket and the industry that they're in because I knew this thing kind of did with go in with like Oracle and like PANW and some of those other, and it just hasn't seen the range cloud server security. Okay, so it's in the, somewhat of the same basket as PANW, CRWD, and those charts don't look bad, right? You go over to PANW. PANW is a chart that I traded last week, and it was a really, really easy, nice trade. Um, I could have got a 350% gainer on this on the initial swing I had, but I didn't want to have any exposure with the CRWD report, and that ended up really juicing these names. You go over to CRWD, yeah, really beautiful flush right above the gap. I already talked about this one. Another high tight inside bar. Is it soaking the wick of the previous trading day? I mean, we had a disgusting rip right off the open, and then just relatively dry volume that pushed into equilibrium of the candle, right? So from the daily chart, or 618 actually, from the daily chart, people are like, oh my gosh, there's a wick here. It failed to close above. But like, dude, that doesn't matter because you have to look at kind of how the tape was behaving and what the effort is of this range of consolidation versus the effort of kind of what the initial reaction of where there was a lot more effort established at, right? That obviously created much bigger of a result. And then you're getting just consolidation on really low volume of the previous trading range of where like this is the wick that's scaring you essentially. This price action could be soaking the area dry from this, right? And there's a lot of, I'm not just speaking out of my ass, guys. There's a lot of targets to the upside, right? I mean, we're beneath a massive daily level, but whenever you're thinking about how beaten down this thing is in such a quick way, I don't know if this accumulation has been built up enough to be able to reach the fills of the gaps up at 305 and stuff like that. But I mean, if we get above this level, I don't see how that's necessarily so far-fetched, right? I feel like the weekly print will tell us something a little bit more about this, but the most forceful moves happen after narratives have been kind of established, right? After everyone gets shook out. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we are failing. It's not the prettiest looking chart. I'm not going to pretend like it is. We have a weekly gap here. We have the previous all-time high and swing high that we're actually failing, and we're getting the retest and do it on lower volume with a heavier volume sell, right? So it's not like I'm not gonna act like this is like super super clean, but if this general basket wants to catch a little bit more of like a relief, I feel like D-Dog could be decent on this little consolidation break. It got a little undercut and then it started to fail, claim back into the range. Now it's trading and pushing back up towards the highs on increasing volume. So there's obviously more effort that's being established as you kind of complete the general range here. Now we just got to wait for the break, right? If it does happen to break on nice volume, really nice strong move with little to no seller really being shown, I feel like this can be just a quick little easy intraday break, retest, and go. Don't really know what this could go for. I would say like um, at least into the progression spot from this gap down. So yet again, always want to kind of know what your risk is, establish the risk. 3.5R, 4R, it's kind of like what my minimum criteria is for a trade. Um, this could be a good short. I don't know if it's going to be playing out yet. Could be a good short. Um, damn, dude, it's hard. It's really hard to say what financials are going to be doing here. If you go take a look at the sectors, the sectors look like they're getting a little bit of like what looks to be preparing for something, preparing to be positioned within some of these consumers. I don't know necessarily why. I don't know why. Like I said, it kind of depends on the whole AI trade. It depends on what the whole like AI charts do, like Nvidia, stuff like that, right? And we don't really know what Nvidia is going to do, but there's been a lot of attention in a lot of these names over here, right? Like MO, like all of these. Looks like PG wants to look to make a new all-time high. Pepsi got really nice volume leading into the end of the week. Um, it was actually insane volume right off of the close, kind of what made that all happen. Um, the sector fund itself has been on a really, really, really nice move. I'm not saying that like I'm looking to trade long side on XLP. I'm just saying sometimes other rotations from in cash going it flooding into one sector means that they know something about what the market's going to be doing for the future, and it's kind of just quick preparation, right? That's kind of why I knew tech was going to be in a short-term distribution for a few times, just because I saw some consumers being accumulated, I saw some size being hit into the consumers, into the energy, into the industrials, right? Those are the charts where okay, you're going to move your you're going to scatter you're not going to have all your eggs in a basket. You're going to get your name out of the over leveraged Nvidia and you're going to go to the quieter trade that's more safe. Um, so I will transition my focus a little bit into either consumers, staples, um, or by the way, Lowe's does look good, but man, is it a pain in the dick to trade. And this fill was just not the greatest fill. And it's sitting right beneath this bear gap with a break of like local resistance right here. Dude, I don't know. With a volume increase too. But like look at how this thing trades, dude. It's like the cleanest hourly looking chart though. I feel like I could put my focus here if like something like weird happens in the market though. So I'm just gonna prepare for that. But like my focus right now in terms of like defensives is Valero and MPC. Um, and then financials. If these dudes want to sell off, I could definitely short SPY, definitely, or just short a financial because I don't know what the other sectors are really going to be doing. I'm not really like I don't have a super clean read on tech. I definitely don't. I don't think anybody does. Like I said, you're getting a lot of pushes on like little to no volume, which doesn't need to happen because we printed a footprint candle on crazy volume and a really nice recovery with VIX at 100% plus 100% on that day, where there is already so much inventory accumulated and on hand from that given spot that the rallies higher don't need to be on a lot of volume. A lot of people don't understand that like that does not need to happen. So you take a look at some of these charts, JPM's on an absolute monstrous fucking run. Um, do I think potentially the knife candle is on the way. It could be. Um, I'm not an RSI guy at all, but like when you're getting trends like this where it looks as if there is just an absent side, that's whenever shit goes south very quick. It's pure speculation, but if that were to happen, if you were to see any sort of sketchy JPM looking action, my focus is going to be C. Um, Seller dominant chart from a weekly perspective started to get the distribution all the way back in the beginning of April. Got a new high, failed it. Finally got a new high, failed it on disgusting volume, creeping back higher into where they failed the previous breakout. And we're looking to fill that earnings gap with a fuckload of volume behind it. This looks like these buyers are going to be running out of steam and bailing, taking profit, and then flipping potentially. And I think if this thing starts to fail structure with some leaders within the financials starting to gain relative weakness because of how extended these could potentially be, C could be definitely a really, really, really nice short. Yeah, if you guys take a look at Django's thing that he threw in the general chat, that's just a disgusting risk to reward. A lot of distributions already happened within financials though too. So it's hard to say. Like this was a disgusting chart for a very long time right here. And then we got like the biggest volume knife that we've ever seen within financials ever. A lot of people say, well, they talk about like, fundamental. I don't need to know that or see that, right? I mean, look at this chart from right here at this given range. All it is, guys, is disgusting capitulation, relatively decent volume with no buyer in this range doing anything. It's a simple retracement and a failure into the next report. Disgusting, 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 disgusting gap down. The heaviest volume on the daily, I think, ever. No, not ever, but heaviest volume since July of 2023. That's so notable. And it just kind of looks like shit again. The only really strong financial name. Okay, well, I mean, I guess Berkshire is too. Uh, and BlackRock. It's just kind of like the three like top dogs. Pretty sure these are the three biggest within the sector. The rest of them, they look like shit, right? So if these can start gaining, that's all I'm really trying to say. If these can start gaining relative weakness, these, in my opinion, are going to get smoked. So I don't know. We'll see. Uh, Industrials have been on a absolute banger of a run. Not a big fan of trading these overall. Lockheed Martin just a monster. MMM still a monster. RTX still a monster. Beautiful charts over here. Can't really be touching those though. J&J. Oh, dude, I don't really like the fill over here. Look at this weekly chart though. Like, you can't tell me this doesn't look like it's going to 170. Obviously, this is like such the uninformed. This is such the uninformed trader fill up here, so I'm not going to be touching any of these, but J&J is on a monstrous move, and we're starting to get like that signal maybe over here within PFE. A Discord member did share the premium chart and how the December calls have gotten cooked on this move lower. Um, and it's kind of just at where a higher low would be. Um, Nice little volume into the upper range at the 29 psych leading into the close of last week. mRNA absolutely got smoked on its last report. I don't know. PFE could be a decent watch. to catch up with like J and J. Typically trades like shit, but it's just a simple consolidation break where the gap print is actually the resistance. The gap opening print of the gap down here. So I don't know. We'll see. If it could claim back above that range, take control of 29, it's definitely going to be a focus for me. I'll go over, throw this thing in the watch list, and yeah. So these are the tickers that I'm focusing. I'm not really got my eyes glued over here. It's more or less just like a confluence to what could be potentially an intraday trade on DDOG. ON and TSM kind of got to wait and see how those confirm with semiconductors. Netflix is probably going to be one that is on watch as well. I feel like this is still going to be a failure, except it's hard to say that right now because of the daily close. That kind of just like happened with like the move higher on QQQ. You got to be relatively bullish on QQQ because I don't think anything within this range is showing us that this is going to get a clean rejection. But if it does, it's just going to open up better risk to reward for potentially shorts, especially if tech starts getting sold and then financials kind of lose a little bit of steam. SPY is going to be the bigger underperformer there. And we have clean risk levels here within SPY, 150%, right? So like if this were to get above the range, break, fail, retest, fail, retest, fail, retest, fail, all the way back down to the bear gap. I mean, you could short this thing three, four, 5 times on all really good risk to reward at lower highs, right? So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's not a there's too many charts that tell you different things to the point where like you kind of just got to wait and see what makes the most sense because like you can't really just like tell the future. Um, whenever you can't like you can't tell like, oh, did the tape flip? Did Are these just like some underperformers that are like looking to like, is it just going to be like on hand inventory since the footprint candle where it's like it kind of just floats its way higher on essentially like little to no volume that gives us any signal, right? Like we don't know yet. So I don't know. Maybe data this week will tell us something as far as like a micro type of read off of like maybe that 10 a.m. price action. Um, So yeah, I mean that's all I could really talk about for now. I mean, I guess as an intraday based trade, I could throw J and J in there as well. What? Okay, I think I need to. What was that? Was that an ad? Or do I? Someone got to help me out with TradingView, man. My TradingView's been acting up. Did they change their service or something? Like, do I need to upgrade it now? Has anybody been having problems with TradingView? It just didn't let me add a ticker. Okay, I don't know, but I'm gonna add J and J here. I guess I'm no problems on your end. Hmm. Okay, I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. I could remove CRM anyway. I guess I have a ticker limit, not even pop-ups. Yeah, I don't know then. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's just a United States thing. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here and post this video. I'll post some charts tonight as well alongside the video because I feel like there might be something else out there. But yeah, none of these are a big, big, big focus for me by any means. I already have a position within Roku. If the Roku position and growth pops right off of Monday, dude, right off that 10 a.m., I get a fat candle to the upside, a lot of volume behind it. I kind of know what's happening there. You know what I mean? Like I kind of know shorts are gonna get squeezed out for a little bit up until like probably that gap fill up towards like 72 or wherever it's at, and maybe even a little higher. So dude, I could start realize I could that could be a full realized like 6 or 7 or 8 R trade, right? That could set up my whole entire week off of one trade. So I don't know. That's why it's important to really focus the high risk to reward, really catch some nice leeway where things could get a little bit squeezy, and then set up your week right off of Tuesday. Easy trade, 4, 5, 6, 7 R trade, and you don't have to be too active on a short week, right? So that's what trading is about, and we'll see what Roku has in store. I could also roll profits on that position if it looks really clean right into Monday, and that could be a big, big, big win. So we'll see. But yeah, that's gonna. I'm ending the recording.